Artists in this genre often use horror imagery and samples to create a dark and unsettling atmosphere in their music. Horrorcore has a loyal fan base and continues to evolve and push boundaries within the hip-hop community. While the genre of horrorcore may be considered controversial by some, it is important to note that the majority of artists and fans view it as a form of entertainment and self-expression, rather than promoting violent or criminal behavior. Some well-known artists in this genre include Esham, Insane Clown Posse, and Grave Diggers, as well as newer acts like Tech Nine, Necro, and Brotha Lynch Hung. As the genre continues to evolve, it continues to attract fans from all around the world, and a fascination with the macabre. Psycho Sam. In September 2009, a 20-year-old aspiring horrorcore rapper named Richard McCroskey committed a horrifying quadruple murder that mirrored the violent lyrics of his music. Richard was born in Hayward, California, on December 26, 1988, and spent his childhood in the nearby suburbs of San Francisco. As a young boy, he faced constant bullying due to his weight and red hair, making it difficult for him to make friends. Despite his difficult childhood, he developed a passion for music and began creating his own horror-themed rap lyrics. As a result, he turned to the online horrorcore community for solace and developed a strong fascination with the genre. Hidden behind the anonymity of the internet, a reserved and awkward young man transformed into Psycho Sam, a deranged and murderous character with a disturbing fascination with blood and death. Unfortunately, this obsession ultimately led to his involvement in a violent and tragic murder. The transformation of this seemingly normal music enthusiast into a cold-blooded killer is a complex and disturbing tale, likely influenced by a combination of personal struggles and mental health issues. Ragdoll. Through his online persona, he gained a small following in the horrorcore community, where he eventually crossed paths with 16-year-old Emma Niederbrock, a fellow enthusiast. What started as a friendship based on their shared interest in horror soon turned into a romantic relationship, but their mutual obsession with violence would ultimately lead to their downfall. Psycho Sam's trip to Virginia. Emma and Richard had been flirting online for some time and decided to finally meet in person. It was at this time that Emma would discover that sometimes what you see is not often what you get, and upon meeting Richard at the airport, the teenage girl was disappointed and quickly lost interest in her online boyfriend. The confident and charismatic Psycho Sam that Emma had fallen for turned out to be a shy and insecure 20-year-old who struggled to make connections in real life. Despite this, Richard still joined Emma, her parents, and her friend Melanie at the Strictly for the Wicked Horrorcore Music Festival in Detroit, which they had all planned to attend. Multiple festival attendees have confirmed the presence of Emma and Richard, both prominent figures in the horrorcore music community. However, no one recalls seeing the two together at any point. In fact, Razakel, a fellow horrorcore rapper and friend of Emma's, remembers a conversation where Emma expressed discomfort around Richard, claiming he was making her feel uneasy. Little did anyone suspect the extreme measures Richard would take to retaliate against the girl who he believed had manipulated him into traveling across the country, only to reject him. The concert ends. After the concert, the group returned to the Niederbrock home in Farmville with plans to spend a few days hanging out before Richard and Melanie went home. However, Richard's feelings of anger and confusion towards his relationship with Emma only grew stronger. He believed they were in an exclusive relationship, but was shocked to find out that she no longer wanted anything to do with him. This led to a tragic event in the early hours of September 14, 2009. Using a ball-peen hammer, Richard brutally murdered Emma, Melanie, and Emma's mother, Deborah Kelly, who were the only ones in the house at the time. It is important to note that Emma's father, Mark Niederbrock, who had joined the road trip to Detroit, did not live in the family home as he was divorced from Deborah. The victims were each attacked while they slept and were rendered unable to defend themselves as the attacks were swift and left no signs of struggle. Despite the gruesome nature of these crimes, they were just the first in a string of strange events leading up to McCroskey's eventual arrest. Psycho Sam wasn't done. Thomas and Kathleen Wells were concerned when they didn't hear from their daughter Melanie for several days while she was in Inwood, West Virginia, nearly 200 miles from Farmville. Despite numerous attempts to reach her on her cell phone and at the Niederbrock house, nobody responded. On the day Melanie was supposed to return home, Thomas drove to Emma's house in Inwood where she was staying and waited for over 7 hours. When he was unable to make contact, he eventually gave up and drove back home. The next day, Kathleen contacted the Farmville police and requested a welfare check. Upon arrival, the officers spoke with Richard, who claimed that the women were at the movies. Despite this, it is unclear why the police did not further investigate the situation. Due to the fact that the welfare check was for an adult over the age of 18, the officers were unable to continue questioning or enter the premises without consent. Frustrated by the lack of action from the police, Kathleen then reached out to Mark Niederbrock, who lived nearby. She asked him to check on the house in Farmville and update her on the situation. Unfortunately, Kathleen would never receive a response from Mark. Psycho Sam's work is uncovered. On September 18th, when Kathleen was unable to reach Mark, she persisted and convinced the police to return to the house. Despite Richard leaving the front door unlocked, officers arrived just after 3 p.m. and entered the home. The putrid smell of decay immediately overwhelmed them, and they tragically found the lifeless bodies of Emma, Deborah, Melanie, and Mark. Sam was psycho but not smart. In the early hours of September 18th, Richard drove a Honda sedan into a ditch and requested assistance from an officer in a tow truck. When asked about the ownership of the car, Richard claimed it belonged to his girlfriend's father. In reality, he had stolen the car from Mark Niederbrock after murdering him. The officer issued a ticket for driving without a license and impounded the car. During their conversation, Richard mentioned he was headed to the airport to catch a flight to California. Later that day, the officer learned that investigators were searching for Richard and immediately shared this information as it helped in locating the suspect who had planned to fly out of Richmond. On September 19th, Richard McCloskey was caught by officers in the early morning after spending the night in the baggage claim area of the airport, where he was waiting for his flight the following day. The next day, on September 20th, 2009, McCloskey pled guilty to 2 counts of capital murder and 2 counts of first-degree murder in connection with a quadruple homicide. As part of his plea deal, he avoided the death penalty and was instead sentenced to 4 life sentences. Richard confesses all. At approximately 3 a.m. on September 15th, Richard committed his first murder by killing Melanie in the downstairs living room. He then proceeded to sneak upstairs and bludgeon Deborah. Lastly, he quietly entered Emma's bedroom to end her life. Richard remained inside the house with the deceased bodies of his victims until September 17th. On that evening, Mark Niederbrock entered the home to check on his family, but was unexpectedly attacked and fatally beaten by Richard with a wood-splitting maul. After killing Mark, Richard realized he couldn't stay in the house and moved Melanie's body into Emma's room. He then fled the scene in Mark's car. The killer revealed that he targeted Emma because she had rejected him, and he killed the others to eliminate any potential witnesses. Could horrorcore rap be to blame? Following the disturbing incident, the media wasted no time in speculating whether Richard's fascination with horrorcore rap was a contributing factor to his heinous actions. Among those discussing this topic was Mars, a well-known horrorcore rapper hailing from Pittsburgh, California. Many people often point to violent media such as horror, action movies, violent video games, or profane music as the cause of inexplicable acts. However, there is no solid evidence to support a direct connection between consuming violent media and committing violent acts. Additionally, the horrorcore genre, which McCloskey was a fan of, is enjoyed by millions of well-adjusted individuals worldwide. In reality, McCloskey carried out this heinous crime because he was a deeply disturbed individual who had faced a lifetime of being ostracized and ridiculed. When the only girl who showed any interest in him rejected him in person, McCloskey's pent-up emotions and fantasies of violence boiled over, leading to this tragic outcome. Richard is currently serving time at Green Rock Correctional Center in Chatham, Virginia. Despite declining media interviews, one of his former cellmates disclosed that McCloskey expresses remorse for his actions and does not boast about them. This cellmate also mentioned that McCroskey is not well liked in prison and is often isolated, although he does have a small group of acquaintances. Remembering the victims. The Niederbrock family had a large group of friends in their hometown. Deborah was a sociology and criminal justice professor at Longwood University, while Mark was a pastor at a Presbyterian church nearby. Despite their separation, they remained close, and both parents were actively involved in their daughter Emma's life. Emma was thriving socially, academically, and had a promising future ahead of her. Melanie Wells, on the other hand, had dropped out of high school a few years ago but was determined to turn her life around. She was working hard to earn her GED and living with her supportive parents, who played a crucial role in helping the police capture McCroskey before he could leave Virginia. The tragic end of their lives and the heartless actions of Richard McCroskey should not overshadow the happiness and positivity they brought to the lives of those who knew them. I'd like to take this time to pay my respects to the victims and all the families that were affected by this heinous act on both sides. May you rest in peace. You deserved better and are forever in our prayers. Conclusion. It is important to remember that rejection does not define your worth as a person. It simply means that the person or situation was not the right fit for you at that moment. It is important to acknowledge and process your feelings of disappointment or hurt, but also to remind yourself that there are plenty of other opportunities and people out there that will be a better fit for you. Keep a positive mindset and focus on the things and people in your life that bring you joy and fulfillment. Don't let rejection hold you back from pursuing your goals and living your life to the fullest. Remember to be kind and patient with yourself and trust that things will eventually fall into place. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe for more Killer Cliff Notes, and I'll see you in the next one.